David, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure meeting you last night at Tableau's User Group event.
Yeah, meeting you was one of the highlights. I enjoyed meeting everyone last night.
Yes, I remember the first thing you told me when we met was that you were planning to present on the CDC data and how you're going to use that to illustrate a news article, but then the presentations kind of took longer than planned, and since you were slated to go last, it didn't get to happen, but I really, really wanted to hear your presentation, so I'm glad we're able to do this today.
Well, thanks for the invitation to do it. I really love sharing what we have going on here.
All right.
So I guess what I'll do is just kind of show a couple of slides to get you oriented to what this is all about. And then mostly I want to show you, kind of get right into the demo. So let me get my screen shared here, one sec. And so a little bit about Insight Rocket. This is the company I'm with. We're really focused on this idea of the intersection of storytelling and data analytics. And so there's a lot of different threads to that in terms of what storytelling means and how you can do storytelling. And our real focus, and the reason I was at the Tableau conference or event last night, is that we've really tried to help take Tableau with all of its strengths and bring it into this world of publishing and storytelling. So the kind of some of the reasons that we're focused on that are that, we really find that a lot of good data that people have is really kind of ignored within organizations. And so, there's a couple of stats up here that kind of reflect that people have great vizzes and data and it doesn't always get seen. And we think a lot of that has to do with attention span, and that really the, people's attention, it's so short nowadays that it really, you have to hit them with content at the right time in the bite-sized kind of way, or you may just really kind of lose the chance to influence and educate them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and another part of this whole thing is, how storytelling is really huge. And you hear people talk about storytelling, but they just they don't really allow you to have a story with a beginning, middle, and end, and narrative. And so we're trying to really have data storytelling be more like the other types of storytelling that you see all over. So yeah, Kate.
Yeah, so you mean to say that all the great Tableau visualizations I spend my time on is only impacting 25% of retention?
Well, I think that, Tableau added this story points feature, and some people try to include some narrative. Mm-hmm. But the thing that people like you and me and a lot of the people that were at the event last night don't realize is that we may not be typical of the people in our organizations in terms of, we really love data. We love data visualizations. There's a lot of really verbal people that are all around us. And what we think is a tremendous story in a picture, in a visualization, to them is maybe not activating those parts of the brain that storytelling is purported to really activate. Mm-hmm. So, I don't want to spend too much time on the kind of the conceptual stuff. What I want to tell you about, I want to show you the demo and just give you a feel for what this software that I'm going to show you, where it fits in architecturally. So I'm going to kind of fast forward a little bit. And so this concept that I'm showing here is that, people are familiar with the traditional Tableau environment, which is shown on the left. We have what I'm calling Tableau developers, people like you that really can do wonderful things in Tableau desktop, building things, and they can publish to Tableau server so that the rest of the organization can see what they've done. But we find that there's a kind of a gap that we're trying to fill with our Insight Rocket platform, which is a publishing and storytelling gap. And so what we do is we let not only those fairly technical people like you who build Tableau vizzes, but a broader range of people be data storytellers. And the way they can do that is grab things from the Tableau server, dial in the filters and parameters as they see fit, combine them with each other as they see fit, and importantly, combine them with non-Tableau content in an easy way, and then publish to web portals, to mobile emails, to PowerPoints, to PDFs, to Slack, to various destinations, and try and address that problem I mentioned earlier of all the data that's really not getting utilized fully because of people's short attention spans.
So a question on that, I mean, this sounds really cool. So how would it work with the Tableau server if somebody was to go in and, let's say, next month update the data? Would the data be updated in Insight Rocket automatically, or is this another poll that you would have to do?
No, so I'll show you in a second. It is all it's all live linked to the Tableau server, and you can, when you publish something, either choose to have all the parameters and filters and the like locked in the way you lock them in, so that even if there's new data, it doesn't change what people are seeing unless they, let's say, slide the date range to the right now. Or you can have it roll dynamically and always show the latest. Okay. But the key thing is the linkage to the live Tableau objects, which are often linked to your live data warehouses and the like, as opposed to turning everything just into static images that are kind of divorced from their original source.
Okay.
So with that, I'm going to skip the rest of the slides because no one likes slides. And I'm going to kind of jump over to my web browser to show you what I was going to show last night. So we're at a portal on an Insight Rocket server. The Insight Rocket server, usually people host that within their organization, behind their firewall, although it can be in the cloud as well. And there's a lot of flexibility to how you lay out these portals, and it becomes sort of a superset of what you would get if you went to the Tableau server web URL. Because everything that you can get at the Tableau server portal is here, plus these stories that can go beyond just Tableau while retaining the interactivity. And so up at the top, you see there's a headline news feature. All the data and whether or not a headline gets published is based on Tableau worksheets. Then you've got various little intros to stories here. These are just the ones that whoever's curating this site has chosen to feature. And then the navigation is just whatever your organization sets up at as the navigation. And then oftentimes people have more than one portal, just like you can have more than one site on a Tableau server. You can have one portal for each of many different departments or projects, all sharing one Insight Rocket server. So there's kind of two types of stories on Insight Rocket. There's the ones that people write by hand, essentially, just like they would create something in a PowerPoint deck today and maybe cut and paste things from Tableau. And then there are automated stories, which is really the focus that I want to have. But just to give you a quick glimpse of what a kind of point-in-time story is, so I'll open up this one, for instance.
Okay.
And so the idea is that a key is who wrote this. And a Tableau developer, someone that's gone to Tableau training, is not the person that wrote this. This person, Pedro, is just a business analyst. And so he went here, clicked on create a story, and just started blogging, basically. And all of this text and this image that you see here, these are things that he just dropped into the narrative. And then when he gets to a point where he wants to include some Tableau, he drops in Tableau while retaining its interactivity.
Wow.
But he's dialed in the way it should look at by default so that it matches the narrative that he's sharing. So for instance, he highlighted these data points and made these other changes. And if we were Pedro, let's say, and we realized that we actually didn't want to highlight this one, we just wanted to highlight the consumer machines one, all I'd have to do as Pedro is click the floppy disk. And now everyone that comes to the portal or any of the PDFs and PowerPoints and the like that get created from now on of this story reflect the change that we just made in terms of mark selections or filters or anything else.
Wow, that's really awesome and really fast too.
So if I go just to the next page real quickly, you'll see that it kind of continues this pattern of the top, here it's just all non-Tableau content. You might ask, well, couldn't Pedro have put this into his Tableau dashboard? And then, the point here is that, well, one of the points is that Pedro doesn't mess with Tableau workbooks. He doesn't have Tableau desktop. This is an authoring environment to expand who can be a data storyteller beyond the people that are comfortable working in Tableau desktop, maybe. But as you can see later in the screen, here again, he's intermixing Tableau on the left with text that he typed in on the right to give his spin on why this matters.
Wow.
But at this point, if someone's reading this and they are kind of geeky and they wanted to really dig into this, they could even at this point in his presentation say, I want to flip into Tableau Web Edit and really kind of revisualize this, given what Pedro said about the importance of this, right? So maybe now he's going to go to the Show Me menu and say, well, I really would rather see this as, and I probably look like a mess but he'll change it like this, do various other things, and then go back to Pedro's story and continue with, understanding what Pedro says the meaning of this is for his organization. But then, really important is being able to share. So here are all these sharing options, sharing it via Slack, sharing it via email, PDF, PowerPoint. So here I could go here and say, let's send it to a group of people or an individual and say, something about Pedro's latest analysis is so cool. Please read and share questions by Friday, right? And I'll say I want to attach, a PowerPoint or a PDF if I want to. But I'll send that off. And so I think, being able to share in these various ways, it's a key. Remember those goldfish, right, that have the short attention span. A lot of times people need to just read something on their smartphone and just kind of thumb through it, and maybe they're done. And so you have to be able to deliver content in these really efficient ways, I think. I don't know if that's what your experience has been. That attention,
absolutely.
Attention, that's the problem, right?
It would actually be really cool to see how it would look if you were to download it to a PowerPoint. I can imagine it in a PDF. It seems like, it would fit really well. But how would it translate to a PowerPoint? Would it
I'll show you that.
The slide creation?
I have to go back and I didn't check that off. I'll do that. But let me just show you real fast. This is the email. And you see how basically the Tableau content is inline images. But in here, if you click on any of these inline images, it'll take you, sign you on if you have single sign-on, and then you're to the interactive version so that you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the static version for email and PowerPoint and PDF, but then you also have the, you have the link to the interactivity. Or here, I'll show you PDF and PowerPoint, and then I'll show you this kind of example of automating. But here we're in the, in the PDF, right? And again, there's the Tableau. Remember, we took away the highlight on home office machines, and that's reflected here. And then if I click through, again, it brings me back from the PDF to the story, brings me to that point in the story, and I can start, drilling down and doing all the things that one normally does in Tableau. Or you had asked for the PowerPoint. So I'll go do that real fast. I'll just download it to my desktop instead of emailing it.
So while that's downloading, just a question. Who uses a service like this? Would it be like newspaper writers or?
No, it's actually kind of typical business organizations. So, we've got clients in the pharma space, clients in the in financial services. It's really a lot of people are finding that they want the ease of use and
Mhm.
creation that Tableau brings, but they have to be able to also serve all the people that maybe don't have the time and inclination to interact and visually explore their data. They want to be published to. And a lot of times they say, I actually want to be published to in, in PowerPoint because I want to combine it with other decks and present it and so forth.
So this looks really neat. I mean, it just knows how to build a deck. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'll show you. Actually, the main example I want to show is the one about the CDC. So we can jump over to that if you'd like.
Sure, sure. And I'm thinking a really great use for this would be like an annual report, let's say at a bank that has all these charts and you're able to interact with it. That would be really cool.
Yeah, but the other thing we find is that sometimes because we're trying to make it more automated and easier, things that had been done annually, you
Mm-hmm.
could start to do maybe monthly, or things you were doing
Right.
monthly, weekly, and because you get rid of the manual part of it, or you vastly reduce that overhead, and then you can provide data in a more timely way. And the very same data delivered the next day or the next week can be much more powerful than if people don't see it for a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
So here on infectious disease, what we did was we wanted to kind of find a public data source that changes pretty regularly, and where knowing that something happened has real consequences.
Okay.
So we went to the CDC and got some information about infectious disease updates. And what we found was there's just a lot of information. And trying to turn that into PowerPoint, one of the problems is you could wind up with like a really long deck where a lot of the slides are not that interesting this week. And so what you'll see here is a scheme or a technique in Inside Rocket where you can just focus in on the interesting slides.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go in here, you see this one says infectious disease template, right? So
Yeah.
this is the master that runs every week while people are sleeping. And then the one that says week of January 21st, or the one that says week of February 4th, those are created automatically. And in fact, if we go, we'll go to one of these ones that was created automatically, and then I'll go back and show you the template. And so just like Pedro's story before, it's got a mix of Tableau and non-Tableau, but it has something else that's kind of special. So here it's saying that nationally infections were down. It was a good week. That minus 33, that's a hot spot. That's getting pulled into the text from a Tableau field automatically at night while this is running. And then this is just straight Tableau, and all that Inside Rocket did was shift the date slider to the most recent week.
Oh, wow. And it would know if it average was up or down based on the negative, right?
Well, actually, this number here could be coming from a totally different workbook. It can come from anything on your Tableau server. And then if we go down a little bit, here, this slide here, all of the text here is dynamically created based upon these conditional kind of templates, right? So basically, no one had to write these bullet points. These were automatic, but an editor could add to those if they want to before it goes out to the full audience. The other thing is the Tableau content and the bullet points and this other non-Tableau content, like you see here,
Yeah.
that's conditionally included or excluded depending upon whether this disease was a problem that particular week.
Oh, wow.
So let me show you a little bit of what the template looks like here,
Okay.
and you'll get a feel for how that happens. So the whole point is trying to, again, go back to those goldfish, the short attention span, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deliver things in a way that people will easily consume them and just include the newsworthy elements. But here I'm going to go into edit on this template, and you're going to see the language where you can kind of say what should get included or not included. So here, I'll jump right to this example here. You see where it says if true?
Yep.
The little wizard that we gave that reaches into your Tableau server, and you can choose any sheet, any field on your Tableau server, and you can create conditions like this. And then if that condition is met, it's saying include all of these things over here. And you see, this is something that you didn't see because it got omitted on purpose because it wasn't a bad week for that particular
Oh,
infection.
okay. Okay, interesting.
And then if we go on now, you'll see here, it said, if this disease happens, include this other data, Tableau, this is a Tableau, Tableau Viz, and then over here, these yellow spots, these are the hot spots that get
Wow.
filled in dynamically overnight. And this content is here. So if I go back here and show you a different week, you'll see that the content is different. So we go over here, let's say it's the week of January 21st. And why don't we go ahead and actually maybe email ourselves a PowerPoint of that.
And can you have
download a PowerPoint of that?
Can you create a rule that says email me a PowerPoint or PDF if, let's say something is up by more than 30% or something?
Absolutely. So what you can do is the whole story can have conditions even from different workbooks. You can say, check this in this workbook, check this other thing in this workbook. If they're both true, this PowerPoint via email, you can have it checking throughout the day.
Yeah, I can think of a lot of uses for something like that. That's really cool.
So let me just go into the PowerPoint that we created. So this one, a little more care was taken by the editor, the author of this story on Inside Rocket. They put a background image and it kind of comes out in this way. So each of these, so you can't tell this when you're in PowerPoint, but these numbers and what slide got included, that was all based on these conditions. So, and then if I go over here, I can now continue in PowerPoint and say, we think this was due to the rainy season.
This is really cool.
And then over here now, if I go over here and I click through on this, what it's going to do is it's going to take me to the interactive version of that viz straight from PowerPoint. So you've got most of your people may just look at it as a PowerPoint, but then some people might say, I want to know more. They click on the PowerPoint, it brings them to the interactive version. Okay. Now they do all the things that they could do in in Tableau, including, as I mentioned before, even jumping into web edit and saying, I don't want to see this as a map, right? I want to see this visualized some other way, and then they can go back to their PowerPoint.
Wow. So they don't need Tableau Desktop to see the web edit view, right?
No, that's part of Tableau Server. So here I could go here. Nothing I've shown you so far requires Tableau Desktop at all. So now I can go here and say, I really would rather see this visualized a different way. And then, I can go back to my PowerPoint and look at the next disease, right?
That's
so
really
it's
cool.
that kind of a kind of focusing on, I like to say it's kind of the last mile of the analytics journey that's often ignored. Is you can't stop by just sourcing the data, visualizing it in Tableau in a great way that includes interactivity, but you have to figure out how are you delivering this as a story, and how are you letting the people in the organization that have the business stories to tell them easily without having to become technical.
Right, and this is very much in line with so on LinkedIn we have this group we call the Data Science Office Hours group, where every 2 weeks it's like a few people get together and we talk about data topics, and our last topic was on data storytelling, and we spent about an hour just discussing the importance of telling stories. And you're absolutely right, this is definitely something that tends to get left off of at least the data person's mind, and you build all of these great things and then they either get used for a day or two and then get dropped, or they just don't go anywhere because we fail to bridge that gap, which I think this is really doing a great job,
Well,
especially
thanks.
at Deloitte. I mean, we love PowerPoint a lot. So even though we have Tableau and, there's some folks that love the interactivity of it, this seems like it's a great way to have the best of both worlds where you're not, copy pasting an image of the Tableau into a PowerPoint. You can really go back to the interactivity of it. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's what we were aiming for. And again, that idea that we as data analysts, we don't have all the answers. And that's part, I think, of why storytelling is talked about but not done as often, is I think it's on us to tell all these business stories, and we're expecting too much of ourselves, I think, a lot of times, because we might be able to create the great visualizations, but part of the richness of the story that has to be told is in the minds of the people that are living it, that maybe, they're not data people, but they understand the business stories, and they have to have a way of getting into the act without getting everything so removed from the interactivity on the Tableau server that you lose out on that.
I agree.
So that's what we've got going on, and we're going to continue to focus on this whole idea of how do you make storytelling practical and not just an aspiration that we talk about from time to time.
Right. So, David, thank you so much for giving us this presentation. Just to close out, if people do want to contact you to find out more about Insight Rocket, where can they find you?
Right, just insightrocket.com is the best thing, and where you can look for me, David Millrod, on LinkedIn, and happy to keep the conversation going.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Kate.